Hello, hello. That's the Boobacker. Say hi, saying hi. We do need a full-scale international wave of apostates exposing the cult. They need to start feeling it. I believe it. Okay. Welcome, welcome. I'm really excited for this stream. Let me show you my background. It's cool. All right. Hello. Hey, Nem2GZ. 1 second. Okay. Let's wait a few minutes and we can get started. Wait a few minutes and get started. It's going to be very interesting. Let's see. Hello, Lazy Effect. Did I say that right? Gosh, so few watching. I just came on and I'm new. So yeah. What's good, chat? All right. If you haven't already, please like. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you would please also share the stream, please. That'll be awesome. It just helps with the algorithm and whatnot. And we do want ex-Muslims out there speaking out against Islam. You know, who else knows about it? You know, we should be able to. So it'll help. It'll help the cause. The cause to defeat Allah. Ho, ho, ho. So yes. All right. So I'm actually, like I said, I'm actually quite excited to do Just Say Laz, like Lazarus. All right, I see ya. Okay. All right. Okay. I was going to do a different type of stream topic situation, like women of Islam. That's gonna be a thing that we're women in Islam. I'm still gonna do that, but I came across something this morning and I was like, hey Clement, and I was like, yes, please listen to Bruce Christian Defender. Hit the like button. Hit it like you fear disobedience from it. I came across something this morning as I was getting ready to go to church and whatnot, and I started listening to it, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. This is amazing. Okay. It was Ali Beth Stuckey having Raymond Ibrahim on her show being Islamophobic, which is amazing, you know, because, you know, it's not real. Islamophobia is not real. Okay. I'm not afraid of Islam. I'm not afraid of Muslim people. So there's no phobia to it. But she had him on her channel and he was talking about the dangers of Islam and why the Crusades happened and all these awesome things. Oh my. I don't know who was A Blue 682, but thank you. Thank you so much. That's very generous of you. Thank you so much. Oh, I appreciate it. He says, I've been waiting for you to go live. May the Lord bless you in your ministry. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And God bless you, and may God provide for you and your family and your loved ones and all the good stuff. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, that's nice. Okay. All right. So, I know it's very generous Islamophobe. So we have that. So what's a big deal of what makes it really a big deal for me, this happening and makes it really exciting is when I became a Christian, when I left Islam back in the summer of 2016, I really thought and I believed that I was the only person to ever leave Islam. I didn't know anybody left Islam. I was alone and I felt isolated. It wasn't until later on that I came across Nabil Qureshi, and I was like, wait, so there's another one of us. So I thought it was just me and him for the longest time, leaving Islam. When you're Muslim, you were told all of your life and you were taught all of your life that nobody ever leaves Islam. People only, quote unquote, revert to Islam. And that kind of mentality, even after you leave, it's still, people leaving Islam is very foreign. And just to have that type of isolation happening, and at that, it was difficult. And especially there's a lot of people around you. Even when I started to have, like, go to church and these things, there's not a lot of people that understand the culture, especially where I live. There are a lot of people that don't understand the culture or just get what it means to leave Islam. Like, they would know, oh, Islam is a false religion and people shouldn't be Muslims, and they people, in the church, be Christians, be born again, and all the 9 yards, but they don't actually understand or get what it means to leave Islam. It's hard. So it seemed a lot more to be glamorized. But now, like, a while back when Turning Point USA had AP go on and speak out about Islam, when Charlie Kirk gave him that opportunity, I'm telling you, even if it wasn't AP, even if it wasn't Apostate Prophet, it could have been any other ex-Muslim being on that stage and talking and giving ex-Muslims a voice. Is a big deal, period, end of story. So I was excited for that. Oh my. Thank you, A Blue 682. He says, you're welcome. You deserve it. You are very brave. I pray for the Lord's protection over you and your family. I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much. You're very kind. Thank you. He goes, so giving ex-Muslims a voice and understanding what it means to be an ex-Muslim, and actually in an environment where it says, oh, Islam is a religion of peace and tolerance. But here we have an ex-Muslim, somebody just going there and saying, this is not actually the truth. And this is what's going to demolish the West if we still stay tolerant to them, assuming that they follow and understand things and have the same kind of mindset as Western people. We're talking about a religious group, and I'm not even being derogatory saying this, a religious group who is actually still stuck in the 7th century. They still have 7th century mindsets. They still understand the world in 7th century language. But we, as Westerners, we think otherwise. So when we have him speaking like that, and then now, 2 days ago, I see, this was posted 2 days ago, I listened to it today, Ali Beth Stuckey having Raymond Ibrahim, having millions, thousands of people watch this. Yo, this is a big deal. I hope you guys understand, at least from my perspective, because so much has changed in the realm of dawah. So much has changed in, like, the circles around Islam. It went from nobody ever leaves Islam to, yo, what are we gonna do with our youth leaving Islam? We got to get our acts together. To now we have major platforms exposing Islam, willing to have this on their show and to speak out against it. Praise God. This is amazing. This is amazing. It shows me that there's still some kind of hope, it's awesome. Yes, it needs. It's. I'm gonna start playing some like parts of it to go because it's. I'm still sitting there. It's like I love Ali Beth Stuckey. All right, I love Relatable. I love listening to things that she says. She's always so refreshing. And honestly, her, in my opinion, her title for her show, Relatable, is kind of fitting because a lot of things that she says is relatable, at least from a woman's perspective. Oh, internet changes the game big time. Internet. If it wasn't for the internet, nobody would know anything about Islam. But I want to actually start going through the video and this. I'm. It's so great. I am so happy. It's amazing. So let me go over here 1 second. There you go. No. What did I do? 1 second. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, that's what I did wrong. Why do I do this? Oy vey. Hold up. Home. Boop, 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 boop. Relatable. I thought I had it all queued up. Silly me. Silly rabbit. There you go. All right. So let me go here. Okay. So I really hope there's no big deals, like they would not have a problem with this. 1 second. And there's no copyright laws because of, I don't know about copyright laws. I'm gonna stop, like, whether, I don't know what their rules are over there. I'm gonna stop here and there. There we go. Let's go start. All right, who's ready to start this? Let's go ahead.
What you do?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ali. Thanks for having me. Well, how far back do we go? But
You can go as far back as you want to. Maybe start recent, and then we can back up.
yeah. Well, I'll actually start from the back, but real quick summary. Blitz.
Okay, sure.
So my family is from Egypt. My mom and father, they're Coptic Christians who came here in the late 60s. I was born here.
Hey, my dad's Egyptian, but he came here as a Muslim, and he's still a Muslim. Okay.
Early 70s, 73 in New Jersey, which at the time when we were born there weren't Copts or even many Egyptians, but I guess now it's like a little Egyptian town. So it's one of the oldest. But anyway, then we moved out to California when I was 12.
Homie's from Jersey, and he went to California.
Around, but as far as this field, how I got into all this, obviously because of my family background, I was interested, especially their Christian background from an Islamic nation, Egypt. Obviously, that kind of created an interest for me right away from early on concerning the nexus of Christianity and Islam.
Yeah.
Even as a child, I was interested in that. And
well, it helps a lot because, like what he said, is like when you're in that environment, you also want to wonder why. And I would love to hear the stories that maybe his parents had experienced in Egypt as Christians living in that Muslim majority country. It's like even now in Egypt, like there's a whole area of Egypt where it's just a whole dumpster. It's a dumpster place, and it's a Christian neighborhood. This is how the Egyptian government has Christians living in Egypt. Or you have them like constantly going into their neighborhoods and causing fires, cutting electricity, raping and kidnapping and everything. And then the Christian community will go and beg the authorities in Egypt, and they won't do anything about it. So what? This is a Muslim country. There's this thing where this false belief when it comes to like the Egyptian identity, where they would say it doesn't matter what religion you are, we are all Egyptian. We are all one. But when it comes, maybe that would work if said Christian Egyptian would make a very good dhimmi, and has money, would work out, but not for the average Egyptian Christian, not for the average one. So, yeah, let's continue.
So anyway, long story short, I went to Fresno State and got my history degree where Victor Davis Hanson, who everyone seems to know now.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because at the time when I knew him, we're talking like 25 years ago, he was famous at Fresno State, but he was just a classicist, a historian who writes military history, and I took those kinds of courses with him. Anyway, I got my degree in history, and I was focusing on Islam and Christianity again, including with languages I was studying like Greek and Arabic. And so my thesis was actually about the very first military encounter between Islam and Christendom, the most decisive one, which was the Battle of Yarmouk in the year 636. Anyway, then 9/11 happened right around when I was finishing up my thesis. And that's what really piqued my interest originally, because I was always just involved in history and philosophy and theology, and I always thought of it as on its own over there, and then what happens in the now, especially because I was still younger and, drinking the Kool-Aid that the media was offering us about Islam, and I just thought it was, it's not what it used to be. And then 9/11 happened, and I started reading what Osama bin Laden was saying in Arabic. And it wasn't what he was saying to Americans. It was very different. He was actually quoting, oftentimes verbatim, the stuff that I was writing in my thesis, which was written hundreds of years ago. And that's how he was thinking. So that immediately piqued my interest, with the continuity, that actually what I was studying,
I wonder what he was quoting. I wonder what Osama bin Laden was quoting. Because I remember that. I remember hearing one thing from the Arabic media. Mind you, I grew up in a Muslim household. I grew up with extreme anti-Semitism. Like my father, if it rained on the wrong day, he will go and cuss out the Jews. Okay? And this is the kind of life that we lived at and during that time. I watched on Al Jazeera, the Arabic news channel, that propaganda machine, the Arabic version, by the way, not the English version we have now on the internet, okay? The English, the Arabic version, where they actually showed us the Palestinians in the street celebrating, giving out candy. I watched Al-Qaeda on the TV that they the whole thing, and actually heard what they said, okay, about why they were doing what they were doing, all right, with Al-Qaeda and Taliban and whatnot, with journalists. I remember this, and I remember why they said these things, and I remember this is one of the reasons why, like, if you know anything about my testimony, I dealt with an identity crisis, because they're saying this is what Islam is supposed to do. And I'm arguing with my father because he thinks there's a bunch of Jews that went and got a remote control and slammed into the towers. But I wonder what he was quoting. I wonder if some of this is what was quoted. So let me show you some things that could be something that Osama bin Laden might have had in mind. So I don't even know where to start. There's so much. So let's see. Could it be Surah At-Tawbah? Verse 928, where it says, "O you who have believed, indeed the polytheists are unclean, so let them not approach al-Masjid al-Haram after this, their final year. And if you fear privation, Allah will enrich you from His bounty if He wills. Indeed, Allah is all-knowing, all-wise." Fight those who do not believe in Allah or in the last day, and who do not consider unlawful what Allah and His Messenger have made unlawful, and do not adopt the religion of truth. from those who were given the scripture. Fight until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled. Could that be it? I read this part, the beginning verse, this 28, because, there could be always a Muslim up in here being like, yo, you're taking that out of context. No, I just wrote the verse. Here's the verse before. Here's the verse after. And homies, it don't get any better. It don't get any better. Let's read on chapter 9, 30. Let's see what it says there. The Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah, and the Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah. That is their statement from their mouths. They imitate the saying of those who disbelieved before them. May Allah destroy them. How are they deluded? Could this be something that Osama bin Laden has been quoting? Those who followed him? Those who went in those planes and followed him? Yeah. And then it goes on, they have taken their scholars and monks as lords besides Allah and also the Messiah, the son of Mary, and they were not commanded except to worship the God. There is no deity except him. Exalted is he above whatever they associate with him with. Here's the thing. When you look at the context of all this, it's literally fight people because of what they believe. This is fight them because of what they believe. Oh, we fight because we're trying to defend ourselves, right? This is what they say. Oh, this is defensive. This is defensive. And Islam being defensive is believing something like what gives them the right to cause a defensive war or defensive fight is for believing something and they believe. It's not because the United States went in and did what they did, or they support Israel or do any of these things. No. It's because we are kuffar. This is the sole reason why they did what they did. It's to show strength. It's going into New York City and taking down those towers that represented New York City. Which, yeah, every state has their own capital. Okay, the country has its own capital, but like everything else, and New York City, the very trade port through the Hudson River, where our economy stands, going there and attacking them there, that to them shows the strength of Islam against the kuffar. Because not only do they attack and take the lives of thousands and thousands of people, they also attack the economy of the superpower that is the United States. It's much deeper. Let's continue with what homie. I have more whatever thingies, but let's see. Let me go back to Ali Beth Stuckey and Raymond Ibrahim. Let's see what else he has to say. What's up, homie?
Islamic conquests of the 7th century, which are seen as some sort of, esoteric, academic pursuit, were actually very much alive for these guys who were declared war on the United States, essentially.
And what was that? What was bin Laden saying in Arabic that he wasn't saying in English?
Yeah. Okay. So fast forward now after, so I write my thesis and 9/11 happens. And then even talking with Victor Davis Hanson, he's like, you should really continue on. And I ended up going to Georgetown University, the Center of Contemporary Arab Studies, which now I understand the political significance of it. And maybe I'll get into that, but I was a naive student at the time. Anyway, and then I got a job at the Library of Congress in the Near East section, and where I was like a kid in a toy store because there was all these books in all these languages, and I would peruse through them. And so this is how we get to bin Laden. Then I came across uncatalogued writings from the Arab world, because the Arab world the whole world sends books to the Library of Congress. Writings from Osama bin Laden. And up until then, so what I was reading earlier from the news was Osama bin Laden saying, hey, we did this to you because you did this to us. This is about reciprocal treatment. And his grievance list was just endless. Yeah. Okay.
Well, that was circulating on TikTok recently. And there were Americans, college students saying, wow, maybe Osama bin Laden was right. And it was basically that. Right. Look, this is the reason we attacked you, because of all of this awful stuff that America has done. Right. But you're saying that's not what he was saying in Arabic.
No. So that's what he was saying. That's what the BBC and CNN and even Fox News were disseminating, which was this grievance mantra. Okay. And it went from everything, from because you support Israel, from because of colonialism, from because of not signing the Kyoto Protocol for the environment. It was just like an endless list, right? Which was absurd, but a lot of people were believing it. Okay, it was for the Crusades and how you guys did X, Y, and Z. Then, so now I'm at the Library of Congress and I come through all these Arabic books and I find actual treatises written by Osama bin Laden and Ayman Zawahiri. And now they're talking to Arabs and Muslims in Arabic, and it's a completely different story. Okay, now they don't mention any grievances. Now it's just
Can we just take a moment and appreciate this? Like Raymond Ibrahim, with all his credentials, speaking on this topic. How many people watched this video? How many times has this video been viewed? This video has 72,000 views from 2 days ago. She has 670,000 subscribers. Think about all the people that listen to this one video, hearing and learning about Islam and Islam's plan to conquer Christian America. Man, and give it 2 more days, how many more people will be hearing this? Praise God.
We as Muslims must hate these people, because they're kafir, they're infidels. They are our enemies no matter what. Even if they're nice to us, we have to hate them. And within all this, of course, it's punctuated by Islamic scriptures validating their arguments, right?
This is what you read from sources written by bin Laden in a Library of Congress right after 9/11 happened?
Yeah, this would be probably around 2004. I came across all this.
Wow.
And then, so long story short, I was taken aback. And this is, so when I told you, my eyes were opened at how like they were talking about the past, it was during that time. Okay. Mm-hmm. When it happened, when I was still writing my thesis, I was just amazed that, just the general jihad mentality thing was still happening. And so anyway, long story short, with those writings, which brings us up to what you're talking about, the TikTok thing, is I translated the book. I got a book deal. It was published by Doubleday in 2007. It's called The Al-Qaeda Reader. And what I did is I juxtaposed what Al-Qaeda had been saying to Westerners directly, which was all just grievances. And, if you leave us alone, we'll leave you alone. And then I put what they were saying to Muslims. And it was basically ISIS. Okay. As you know, with ISIS, they're unapologetic about their hatred for infidels. ISIS, to their credit, has gone on record to say, we hate you on principle, not because of what you've done. So at least they're being honest.
So they're not using the propaganda. No. So why is it that Al-Qaeda or bin Laden was using these propagandistic tools that we often see from China, Russia, these other actors that don't like the United States, which is...
I'm sorry. Ali, but stuck you 1 second. And not using the propaganda is what helped ISIS to be so much more successful in their, terrorist activity, which is why they ended up. Okay, 1 second. Nem2GZ. Is what caused and what allowed other people from all around the world to go ahead and join ISIS. It's because they were straight up. This is what we want. We hate you on principle. We ain't gonna go and circle around the bush. Okay, this is what the Sunnah says. This is what the Quran says, and we're gonna go follow in the footsteps of our Prophet. Muslims all around the world, some heard that, it resonated with them, and then they joined. You didn't hear really that like that when it comes to Al-Qaeda or the Taliban. It looks like even terrorists likes authenticity. All right, I don't want to have my okay. I'll go put that back on. Is it you? No, it's not you. Okay. Let's continue.
They're like festering and digging into the divisions that we already have. They're appealing to progressives. Maybe sometimes they're appealing to someone else, trying to garner sympathy. So why does ISIS not take that approach, but Al-Qaeda does?
Well, that's actually a good question. So with Al-Qaeda, you know, they was effective what they were doing because they were addressing the West, like I said, pulling on their heartstrings and making very very good arguments. So when the TikTok thing came out recently, this was great for me because I
screen is not being shared. What did I do wrong, man? This is a professional stream, okay? We do things professionally. Let me see. I thought I can do it like that. I guess I was wrong. Oh, well. Joop, joopy, 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 joop, joop, joopy. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Managed to write several articles by simply recycling what I had written from 15 years ago and showing how, because they were actually citing the same stuff that I had debunked in the Al-Qaeda Reader, because they would take letters where he said, you know, oh, America did this to us, this is why we're fighting back. And then I had shown how in another letter to Muslims, he said, well, it actually doesn't matter. There are enemies per se. Okay.
Right.
So they were actually kind of smart, and what they were doing is exploiting sort of Western guilt, which is at an all-time high as usual. It's something no other civilization has for whatever reason. Maybe we'll get into that. Whereas ISIS, and that's actually a good question, why doesn't ISIS do this? And, you know, there's a lot of conspiratorial theories as to why, but one of them, you know, on the surface would be that they're just, you know, they're not going to play that game. They're proud. We're not going to humor you. We want you to know you're a filthy infidel and we hate your guts and we're not scared of you. Whereas Al-Qaeda and other Islamist kind of organizations, you know, it's a little dishonorable what they're doing because they're being two-faced and they get exposed, as I had exposed them at the time. So, but still, you still have both elements. A lot of, I would say the vast majority of Islamist type organizations and individuals still play the guilt card with your average Westerner, because your average Westerner is pretty ignorant about actually what had happened between Islam and the West historically.
Which is why this is so amazing. Which is why I am so happy that we have this right here. This hour, 22 minutes and 13-second interview. Because the majority of the people of the West are indeed ignorant. This is an ad. Hold up. Code. All right, back. All right, unpacking Islam and its ideologies. Let's go ahead.
It comes and here, as I explained to you, you're going to see a lot of things that you had heard and how they were wrong. So one of the things that maybe you've heard is Islam means peace, right? And you know, again, as usual, all the great lies have some truth to them.
Says pieces. If you get confused, think of Reese's Pieces, but without the Reese's, just the pieces.
So the word in Arabic, words are always cognates of certain roots, and the word for peace and the word for submission, which is what Islam is, are actually the same root. And so Islam means that salam is peace. Islam means submit and have peace. Okay. All right, so that's the religion. That's its very name. And a Muslim, we say Muslim, and they don't like that because in Arabic, a Muslim means someone who is oppressed. But a Muslim, to pronounce it their way.
I didn't know that they didn't like that name.
Well, no, their name is Muslim, but Americans pronounce it Muslim, and that's an Arabic word too.
Oh, it's just different.
It means you're an oppressed person.
Okay.
So it's an interesting pun that Americans are calling them oppressed.
Like Muslim, kind of. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so a Muslim or a Muslim is someone who has submitted, and which begs the question: what are they submitting to? And this is where what's known as Islamic law or Sharia comes into play. And Islam, I think the best way to understand it, and the problem that Christians have, is they tend to project their sort of religious character onto other people, and they think because Christianity has a very spiritual element, and it's not about the law, at least modern day Christianity. They think that's how Islam is, but Islam is actually, it has nothing to do with the condition of your heart with God. It's just laws. It's like, how do you live your daily life? All right, and it's actually so codified that most people don't know this. There's actually everything in the world that you can do in Islam. There's 5 categories. It's either obligatory, so like the 5 pillars, right? The prayers and the fasting, the zakat. It's recommended. You should do it, but you won't be punished. It's neutral. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's disliked. You don't have to not do it, but if you do, we'd rather you don't. and then it's forbidden. Everything in life. Like, I mean, so that's, I mean, when you think about that, that's not how most people think of religion, right? It's so it's that codified. And then for our purposes, and I always say this because a lot of people, when they talk negatively or criticize Islam, they just talk about everything. Whereas for me, I think what's interesting and useful is to just ascertain the things about Islam that are negative towards me as a non-Muslim. Okay, and they're actually quite limited, but they're also far-reaching. And they are basically, I've narrowed them down to 3 doctrines. One, and I can tell you the name in Arabic, but it preaches love.
Before we go ahead and do that, I just want to say hello to everyone else, all these new people that are coming right now. Hey, Andrew Martin, Mulhid al-Islam, Garga ain't no tree, Garga ain't no snitch. What? I can't read no more. Let's see, Elise Egi Love. Oh, White Trash Panda, what's up? Welcome back. Welcome back. Let me see. Mocking your fabric of choices and stitched. All right, okay. All right, let's continue. Wait a minute, did I learn something new? Can I play it like this? I can't. Oh, well. All right. Let me go back here. Okay.
Love and loyalty for fellow Muslims and hatred for non-Muslims, which is why Al-Qaeda and ISIS would say, irrespective of what the infidel does, we have to hate them. All right.
Every type of Muslim.
Yeah. Sunni, Shia.
So even those, because I've noticed as Islam has come to the West and more of our neighbors are Muslim and, they've got their social media presence. And when you see the snippets of their sermons or whatever, they call it in their services, it doesn't sound that different than what a lot of pastors in Christian churches will say. Right. They'll say, show the other gender double honor, be friendly neighbors, serve others. And it's like, I think to a lot of people, it's like, well, that must be a different kind of Islam than the Islam that we're seeing in Afghanistan. But what you're saying is every single Muslim everywhere abides by the principles you're talking about.
I wouldn't go so far to say that because I would say I know how every Muslim believes. What I'm saying is this is what Islam teaches.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a representative and a true follower of Islam, that's what you will do. But I mean, if you want to be a homosexual Muslim and say, you can do that, but obviously you're going against the religion. Well, so what I mean is here's what's going on. The so-called moderate Muslims, they exist. And some of them, whether it's a pretense, some of them it may be sincere, but what we need to understand is they're not representative of Islam, okay? So what we do is the dichotomy that's sort of pushed on us is that you have a moderate Muslim who's apparently following true Islam, and then you have the radicals who are like twisting it and turning it into something violent.
That's what we in the West think.
Exactly. That's what we think. The truth is, you do have the two groups, but what the truth is that the so-called radical is actually following normative mainstream Islam, which by our standards is radical, but not by their standards. And the so-called moderate Muslim, if he's truly moderate, and he may be, he or she, he's just not following it. It's like saying I'm a Christian, but then I do all sorts of things that are just completely not part of Christianity. Okay, right. So you can do that, but you're not representing true Christianity. So that's, I think, the dichotomy exists. You do have that and that, but the falsehood is.
Here's the thing when it comes to why does that keep happening? I don't agree that there is a moderate Islam situation. I think it's either you're a Muslim or you're not a Muslim. It's very misleading to say, talk about moderate Muslims and non-moderate Muslims. I've known people that somebody can go ahead and claim them to be moderate Muslim. Oh, he doesn't pray 5 times a day. He's never fasted a Ramadan. But say anything about Muhammad, all hell breaks loose. Like, this is a reality. This actually happened personally back in the day. I was still a Muslim. I was curious about what Christianity taught. I had a Bible that I bought from the 99 cent store. It was a KJV Bible. Mind you, I didn't understand anything that came out of that Bible. And I think it was just out of, anyways, not the point. I had the Bible. This dude never fasted a Ramadan. Never seen him pray. Matter of fact, when I was a Muslim, I fasted, he did it, and ate in front of me. Once he saw that I had a Bible, he took it and threw it in the trash. This was a moderate liberal Muslim. It doesn't take his religion seriously. So is there really a thing called moderate Islam? Maybe pick and choose Islam? Maybe, but there's no moderate. That is not a thing, my friends, my sisters, and my brothers. My sisters and my brothers. Okay, let's see over here. Let's go put it back on. Welcome. Why is that in my head? Oy vey. What is this problem inside of my brain? Okay, let's see. Play.
Is thinking that the guys who act moderate represent real Islam and the other guys represent false Islam. It's actually the other way around.
So true Islam teaches that there is a love and loyalty towards other Muslims and a hatred for all infidels.
Yeah. So the radical
facts
will be upfront. The ISIS types will be proud about it and we'll talk about it. The other ones will, so when you talk about, you've listened to one of their sermons and it sounds not unlike a Christian pastor. Okay, well, a lot of that is because they know about those doctrines, but they also know there's a lot of infidels around them and word can get out, so they try not to talk about that too.
I have never sat through a khutbah, an Islamic sermon at a mosque, where it sounded anything like a Christian pastor. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the neighborhood in which I lived in, it was heavily Muslim. So talk about hate speech. Derogatory terms towards Christians, calling them Nasara and then the Yahud and all these things is normal practice. Maybe if you're like a singular mosque in some white suburban neighborhood where they haven't, like, there's like maybe 10 Muslims there, maybe, but not if there's a heavily Muslim dominated neighborhood like where I grew up.
Much. Whereas if it's in the Islamic world, where they're comfortable and they don't, what about infidels? Then they talk about it, and it becomes very so. It is obviously for show. I'll give you a very an anecdote when I worked at the Library of Congress, which kind of speaks to what we're talking about. There were a lot of Muslims that worked there, and I was actually friendly with a lot of them. And one of them, I could tell he was a radical. Like deep down inside, he had he was a Salafi, which he had like a beard and was red, and they shaved the muzzle, which I understand what that means. It means I'm following Muhammad to a T. And but then he would act moderate and talk about no.
The red beard is following the Sunnah of Muhammad, putting henna, causing the beard to be they dye the beard with henna, causing it red, because this is what actually Muhammad did. He dyed his hair. I wonder if anybody is actually familiar with the hadith about how Muhammad wanted to dye his hair, but he made it forbidden for anybody to dye their hair black. Like dyeing your hair black is haram in Islam, where he asked for henna to dye their hair, and that's where they got it from. So yeah, let's continue. It's awesome, Pierce Taylor, that she's talking about Islam. This is why I'm like so excited. I was like, yo, we this needs to be out there more. Please like and share this video. Let more people go ahead and watch this. Hopefully more people go on and see firsthand without the interruption also with Ali Beth Stuckey and Raymond Ibrahim. He is somebody that is he knows the language. He's Egyptian. His family are Christians in Egypt. They know the life there. He inserted himself in learning history. Because of his background, he became interested in this subject itself, and here he is. So let's go ahead and continue listening to Homie.
Oh, we can be friends with the non-Muslim. So I would debate him, just me and him, like sitting at a cafeteria, and be like, well, what about the verse that says you have to hate the Muslims? And what about the verse about jihad and this and that? And then we started talking about, and this is important for everyone, for Westerners to understand, there's this whole thing about abrogation in the Quran. Okay, because the Quran was revealed piecemeal to Muhammad and over years, you will find contradictions. And so what the moderates will do is they'll take the good stuff, right? And most of the violent stuff comes later in Muhammad's career. And the reason for that is in the beginning of his career, he was weak, outnumbered. So it was actually beneficial for him to preach, you have your religion, I have my religion, which is one of the verses in the Quran. And there's no compulsion in religion. These are the verses that moderates always quote, and they are in the Quran. Okay. But then when he became stronger, he went on the warpath, and then the jihading began. Okay. In the conquest, and that's when he started receiving the militant, the ones that I'm talking about. Okay, you got to hate them, you can't befriend them, you have to wage jihad on them. Quran 9:29, it's known as one of the sword verses, and it basically says, fight the people of the book, which means the Jews and the Christians, until they pay tribute and feel themselves humbled. Okay, and with that right there was an open-ended declaration of nonstop war against Jews and Christians. Okay, and that's like, they're the lucky ones, because the other sword verse talks about the pagans, and they're just to be killed right away. They can't even pay tribute theoretically. Okay, so these are the violent verses that come later. Now, the abrogation was the Muslim scholars later on were, how do we make sense of the peaceful and the violent? Well, which do we follow? And the abrogation idea is whatever came later in Muhammad's lifetime supplants the earlier one. Okay, and that's the final word. So the earlier one mattered during the 10 years that Muhammad was weak, for example, but they don't pertain to us anymore, us as Muslims. And the other view, which is very similar, says no, they both work, and it depends on the particular Muslim today where he finds himself. So if you find yourself you're in a strong position, you should go by the militant, violent one. If you find yourself weak like Muhammad was, then you should preach peace and tolerance. Okay, and they're known as the older peaceful ones are the Mecca verses, and the more violent one are the Medina verses, because that's where they were revealed. Later, he went to Medina, became stronger. So I told this Muslim guy about that. And at first, he kind of acted dumb, like, oh, I don't know about that, because he kept saying, no, I believe in peace. But I already know, I can tell he's a radical. And then finally, he got really frustrated. And he says, well, what do you want from me? I live in Mecca. And what he meant is, I am following this peaceful Meccan verses because, like Muhammad, when he was weak and outnumbered in Mecca, I'm in Washington, D.C., weak and outnumbered by all you infidels. So, of course, I'm going to preach the peace. So, okay, so that's, to me, that was very telling and eye-opening, and I think elements of that.
Wow, that makes so much sense, actually, to how it has infiltrated Western civilization, because when Muslims are outnumbered, they sound and act a lot like their Christian neighbors. Yeah. And then your Christian neighbors, in the name of love and helping, the people around us, are thinking, well, I mean, we're all basically the same. We all worship the same God, but that's not quite right.
Nope, it's not at all. And Muslims understand that, and they're exploiting it because it's beneficial to them. It works just perfectly. And that's one of the reasons Muslims can get away with this, mostly in the West, because Westerners.
Yeah. So this is what he's talking about. Surah 9, Surah 9 itself, Surah At-Tawbah, was the last book that was actually been revealed to like the last marching orders. I'm sure many of you guys know. Whoever don't know, it is the last marching orders. The Quran is not a book that is written chronologically. The one who actually put the Quran together seemed to have suffered some type of problem here with organization skills, I guess. Didn't actually take the time to care enough how to do stuff. It's like just pick things up. So, and had Surah 9 put as the 9th chapter, the last marching orders. That is the most dangerous book. That's the book where it talks about going ahead and fighting the disbelievers and all the 9 yards, and where you find Surah 929, what we just finished reading together. I'm actually going to, what I want to do is go ahead, and because we've read verse, whatchamacallit, the Quran verse. But let's go ahead and read the tafsir of that very chapter, just in case there's anybody here that's listening that's like, are you sure? Is that really saying what it's saying? And then we'll go behind the historical context. So here, let's see what Jalalain and whatnot they have to say about these verses. So it says, Jalalain, fight those who do not believe in God nor the last day, for otherwise they would have believe the prophet, and who do not forbid what God and his messengers have forbidden, such as wine, nor do they practice the religion of the truth. So it's like forbidden is like wine. This is such a big deal, wine. The religion of truth, the firm one, like the Al-Zut, the one that abrogated other religions, namely the religion of Islam. He just abrogated other religions. No, show me in the Quran where it says anything about abrogation of other religions. But hey, you got to make sure what you believe is what you believed. From among those who blah 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 have been given the scripture, namely the Jews and the Christians, until they pay the jizya tribute, the annual tax imposed them readily. Blah 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 blah. Being subdued, being made submissive and compliant to the authority of Islam. Okay. Let's see what Ibn Kathir has to say. This is long. So unless he's a servant of one of the people of Dhimma, which are dhimmis, which are second class, they're not even second class. They're like third class citizens, fourth class citizens. They're animals. Oh, the Quran says they're worse than cattle. They're not even human. So let's see what it says here. Until he wills. For the people of the Dhimma. Anyways, you guys can go ahead. This is Ibn Kathir. Do not choose to embrace Islam until they pay the jizya. If they do not choose to embrace Islam, in defeat and subservience, disgraced, humiliated, and belittled. Therefore, Muslims are not allowed to honor the people of the Dhimma. Muslims are not allowed to honor the people of the Dhimma or elevate above Muslims, for they are miserable, disgraced, and humiliated. Muslim recorded about Abu Hurairah, blah, blah, blah. But Islam is a religion of peace. Islam is a religion of peace. Yes, peace, according to Islam, only comes about when everybody's subjugated under Islam and everybody does what they want to do. Either you convert to Islam or you become a humiliated little dhimmi. Okay? Now, this is also talks about all the ways in which you could go ahead. Now, this is Ibn Kathir's tafsir, his commentary on Surah 929. This is not an offensive. A defensive war. This is just you're trash. Okay, you're lower than cattle, and you're gonna be treated as such. At least we want to raise our cattle well, so we could go ahead and slaughter and enjoy ourselves, nice like ma'luba or whatever it may be, mahshi, like stuffed cabbage. We can make something with it. What are we gonna do with you? You're trash. We only want you for your jizya money. All right? And go ahead and, you're nothing. We get away from us. And here's the thing. The worst part, I don't know if this is worse. You guys can tell me in the chat if you agree or not. If this is worse. They didn't want all the Jews and Christians to convert to Islam, because where are they going to get the jizya? Think about that for a minute. Isn't that they would rather, for a bunch of people that think that if you're not a Muslim, you go to hell. They would rather you go to hell just so they can go ahead and gain the jizya from you. And who are they going to be superior over if everybody turns Muslim anyway? Yeah. Oh my gosh, where it says this talks about how you can't imitate certain clothes and all that other stuff, and how the churches can be, how you have to be careful with the kind of haircut and all that other stuff, because you gotta separate yourselves from the people Allah loves, because everybody else is trash, unless you're a Muslim, and then you're like the best thing ever. Best day ever. All right, sang Muhammad after he left the Al-Zut. Best day ever. All right. Let's go back to Relatable. Come on, man. Relatable. Relatable. All right.
Come from a Christian heritage, whether they are or aren't. And even if they're not Christians, Christian ideas have so suffused their worldview, all that stuff that, originally when liberalism was still not crazy and it was good, not being nice to people and helping them, that comes from a Christian framework and didn't just develop out of nowhere. And, giving the guy, giving someone the benefit of the doubt and being helpful. So that's why, it's like you're mixing two bad groups. One is very susceptible to being exploited.
Yeah.
And the other is going to exploit as much as it can. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of what's happening.
There's another ad.
Next.
Okay.
Hate for the infidel with the third.
Right. So the love and the hate, that's actually, it's in Arabic, it's known as al-wala wal-bara. It's actually one doctrine. The second doctrine is, and the way I explain it is, and so by the way, before we leave the love and the hate, the best and easiest way I think to understand it is it's tribalism. It's deified tribalism. It's now, we are Muslims, we hate you. So it's kind of like racism, okay, but it's not about race. It's about religion. It's religious supremacism, okay? So we don't deal with you. Muslims are brothers to each other.
That's how it is now at the time, because they already succeeded in the Arabization of people, that kind of colonialism. So now you're a Muslim only if you're a specific type of Muslim, your brother or sister or whatever. But at the time it was Arabization. They wanted people to be subjugated under Arabs.
Even if one is Arab and one is Turkish or black, and theoretically that's how it should be. And the infidel, we have to hate him. Now that obviously leads to the next more important, more familiar doctrine, jihad. So jihad is warfare to conquer the non-Muslim world. And the reason that love and hate is so powerful, because you need an ideology like that to fuel jihad. Because now if I always hate you because you're the tribal outsider, it's going to make sense for me to want to fight you and subvert you and kill you and enslave you and whatever, because you are the enemy and God tells me to hate you.
And jihad means literally?
Jihad, okay, so jihad, well, when you translate a word, the older scholars, sometimes what they would do is they would take a word and translate it into what it really, not literally what it means, but the connotation that everyone, an Arab here, would understand. So they used to translate jihad as holy war, which is perfectly legitimate because that's kind of what it means. But the word itself means to struggle. And I always find it funny because a lot of the Muslim apologists point this out and they say, oh, you crazy Islamophobes, jihad doesn't mean holy war, it means struggle. In fact, it does, but that actually makes it worse. And it really underscores how dangerous jihad is, because yes, jihad does mean to struggle on behalf of Islam, so you can overpower and overcome the infidel world. Okay. And its historical manifestation has been through arms, through violence, because no one, including and especially Europeans, pre-modern Europeans, was going to be suckered into being conquered the way they are now. So the only way to do jihad was through force and violence, okay? But in the Common Era, there's other forms of jihads that the Islamic scholars have actually articulated. And they're known as, for example, jihad of the tongue and jihad of the pen. That means lying and propaganda, okay, on behalf of Islam. There's jihad of the money, which means I'm a rich billionaire Saudi. I don't commit to jihad, but I send millions to support it. And there's the baby jihad, okay, which is, and a lot of the women see this as their burden, which is, I'm going to have as many children as I can have. We're going to flood the world with Muhammads, which they're already doing in a lot of Western European capitals. The number one newborn baby boy name is Muhammad. So actually, when people argue, oh, jihad just means struggle, yeah, it does. And in fact, there's various manifestations of how this is happening, even though historically it was through holy war.
Wow.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and share something else right now, real quick. That would help also with the context of what's going on here, that I believe would be helpful. So first, yeah, you're that. Okay. I'm going to share my screen here. This has to do with a lot with the Arab supremacy of Islam and why they did what they did. I'm not going to read it all ahead, but here's other events leading up to the Hijrah. So I'm going to start off like over here. So he replied, I summoned them to utter a saying through which the Arabs will submit to them, and they will rule over the non-Arabs. Abu Jahl said from among the gathering, what is it by your father? We will give you it and 10 like it, he answered. that you say there is no deity but God. What's going to meant to be saying Allah, okay? They took fright at that and said, ask for anything rather than that. But he said, if you were to bring me the sun and put it in my hand, I would not ask you for anything other than this. They rose up to leave in anger and said, by God, we shall revile you and your God who commands you to do this. Why? Because this is the whole thing about Arabs being Arabs subjugating non-Arabs. Okay? The chiefs among them hurried about exhorting, go and staunch to your gods. This is the thing designed to the words, not but an invention. Muhammad turned toward his uncle, who said to him, nephew, why did you go too far with them? He turned again toward his uncle and called upon him, saying, utter a saying by means of which I say, shall testify for you on the day of resurrection. Say, there is no deity but Allah. And he replied, were it not that the Arabs would consider this shameful for you all and say that I was afraid of death, I would grant you this, but I must remain in the religion of my ancestors. Then came the revelation of the verse, you guide not whom you love, but God guides whom he will, and all this other shenanigans. So if you go ahead and continue on reading, your nephew's reviling. Oh, crud. What did I do? Your nephew is reviling our gods and doing and saying all sorts of things. You read that here. One second. You go ahead and screenshot this from Al-Tabari. It gives you the whole situation. You can go ahead and go kalmullah.com and it's there, this whole situation that's going on. And there is a context behind the story, the history behind, whatchamacallit. Let me see if I go ahead and find that. Can I find that? No. Cancel. Let me go over here, do this first and that thing. Where did I put it? There you are. All right. This is also here. Are you? Yeah. Okay. All right. This right here is the history behind that verse. So we're going to go Battle of Tabuk. When Allah Most High ordered the believers to prohibit the disbelievers from entering or coming near the sacred mosque, on that Quraysh thought that this would reduce their profits from trade. Again, they didn't care. Remember I told you before, they didn't care about nothing but money. All right? Therefore, Allah Most High compensated them and ordered them to fight the people of the book until they embraced Islam or paid the jizya. Allah says, a bunch of spaghetti language over here. O ye who believe, truly the pagans are unclean, so let them not, after this year of theirs, approach the sacred mosque. And if ye fear poverty, soon Allah will enrich you, just out of nowhere. You're afraid, don't worry about it. I got you, big dog. As long as you're not a black big dog, because Muhammad hates black dogs or anything black for that matter, even hair. If he wills out of his bounty, for Allah is all-knowing, Allah all-wise, fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and his messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth from among the people of the book until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. Therefore, the messenger of Allah, crap and poop be upon him, decided to fight the Romans in order to call them to Islam. This is where Allah, the Most High, because probably had that hashish, he was the Most High, said, O ye who believe, fight the unbelievers who are near to you and let them find harshness in you, and know that Allah is with you, with those who fear him. Moreover, Allah Most High urges the believers to go forth to fight in the cause of Allah, saying, go ye forth, whether equipped lightly or heavily, strive and struggle. This is jihad. Strive and struggle with your goods and your persons, What is the context here? Fighting. For what reason? For what reason? The people of the book. Why? Why? What is the context happening? Like this, what is the context? Strive and struggle with your goods and your persons in the cause of Allah. That is best for you if ye but knew. If there had been immediate gain in sight and the journey easy, they would all without doubt have followed thee. But the distance was long and weighed on them. They would indeed swear by Allah, if we only could, we should certainly have come out with you. They would destroy their own souls, for Allah doth know that they are certainly lying. Where's the... And then... It is not for the believers to go forth together if a contingent form of expedition go forth to devote themselves and studies, blah, 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 blah. Okay, they don't study. They study the fact that semen comes between the rib and the backbones, and then babies are formed from blood clots. Okay, and don't forget that pool of murky water that sun sets in. All right, this is important information that they need to know. All right, and here's all about fighting the Romans and... Yeah. So this is the context. This is the context. The historical context behind Surah 9:29. This is not anything. This is, they just needed money. The fund, his sugar mama that gave him the money after she croaked, and gave him everything for his so-called prophethood, it's all wasted, man. Do it, man. Do it. Swear at Allah. It's the same thing as swearing at Muhammad. They are one and the same. Yeah, it is attack the people of Allah's book, essentially. The people of the book are people who followed the book that Allah sent down for people, the Torah and the gospel, but fight those people like, yo, bro, come on, man. Come on. Come on. You'd be surprised. There are people that still believe this stuff. There are people that still believe with all their hearts. Let's go back to Brazar Ibrahim Raymond. Oh, okay. This is going to be like a long shot now that I have some more people on here. A modern day debate actually was going around looking for somebody to debate IP, a Muslim in particular, a Muslim to debate IP. This debate is going to be happening in about a month, and no Muslim was like, hey, I'm going to go and defend my religion, Islam, and my prophet and my God, and I want to gain all these good deeds, all these hasanat, so I can bring them and see Allah, look what it is, and then Allah will go bring him to the highest Jannah, Jannat al-Furdus, for defending Islam against IP. He couldn't find anybody. Nobody's willing to do so. So what I did was shoot an email, and now this also depends if IP is willing to do this, so that I can have a devil advocate mock debate as a Muslim myself, like I would pretend to be one, with IP, if he won't, like if he can't find anything, and if they're willing to do that. So I thought that would be a good job, a good idea. I don't know what topic it would be. This is a long shot, so if that's something you actually want to see, go to the community post on Modern Day Debate and be like, yo, what's up? So yeah, that's what I'm just saying. I'm not against it. I think I would do a pretty dang good job. That Muslims would be so ashamed of themselves that they would be demolished by a Christian woman who is an ex-Muslim. They would have to bury their heads in the sand. So let's see. Where is my homies? Let's go put my homies back on the screen. And Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is this third doctrine?
So the third one is more of a historical one, but it's so when I was telling you about Quran 929, fight the people of the book, the Christians and the Jews, until they pay tribute and embrace living as a second-class citizen. So now, okay, you started off with the hate, you fought, you conquered, and now you got to keep these people living as just, at best, second-class, maybe third-class citizens. And the people suffering from this today would be, non-Muslim minorities.
Less than cattle.
Christians, Yazidis, Druze, as we saw recently, who live under Islamic rule because they're continuously being mistreated. And we're talking about millions of people around the world. So it wouldn't, in here in this setting or in the West, it's not too applicable because Westerners are still not under the yoke or the boot of the Muslim still. So it doesn't really apply, but it just shows you, it starts off with the hatred and the loyalty to fellow Muslims and tribalism. And then that manifests itself through violence and war, or just jihad in general, which is different manifestations, including peaceful ways. And then the end result is if you're still alive, you are a low-life second-class citizen.
Muslims believe that they are from the line of Ishmael. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes. And Muhammad was who? Like, why did he start this religion? How did he gain all his power?
Well, it's interesting when you look at Muhammad's life, according to Muslim sources, of course. He starts off, okay, according to the Islamic tradition, he's born in 570. And he's at age of 40, so around 610, Gabriel visits him, right, and starts pontificating to him, or actually, Quran means to recite. So they start reciting the ayat, or the verses that keep coming piecemeal until he...
Read, but I can't read. I can't read. Okay. Everyone knows I can't read.
Dies, okay, so from 610 to 632. And the first 10 years when he's living in Mecca, nobody followed him. It was just, and he was poor, and he was married to a rich widow, older than him, who was essentially taking care of him. And his father and parents, he was raised by his...
Khadija, his sugar mama.
Uncle, and he was just kind of like seen as a laughingstock, and a lot of the Quraysh, the tribes that were in Mecca, would laugh at him and mock him. And this, of course, is when we get the peaceful verses, as I was saying, right? You have your religion, I have mine. Don't persecute me, I won't persecute you, because he was weak and he was outnumbered. And then when he finally went to
weakling, I'll stop now.
Medina, he actually became powerful, and he got a lot of tribes to join and work with him. And so I would argue that has from day one been the blueprint of Islam. Islam was rewarding to men, especially. So now, if you join the winning team and you join Muhammad's caravan, we're gonna kill, we're gonna rape, we're gonna enslave, we're gonna plunder, and best of all, tribal societies did this always anyway. But best of all, now we're gonna go to heaven for it if we get killed, and we're martyrs, and we get more of that in paradise. Okay, so that's why I often say Muhammad, basically his genius was he deified tribalism. And now it wasn't just, me against the other, but it's me against the other. And then and the more I kill them, the more I'm going to be rewarded in the here and hereafter. Mm-hmm. And then, and the men, of course, I say men, to get Arab men to follow him, you got all, the sex slavery as being codified as in the Quran. I mean, think about it. God is actually telling you as a man, you can go and rape women. Yeah. Okay, that's their God.
And children, correct?
Well,
because Muhammad took a child bride, Aisha,
yeah.
She was 6, right? Yeah. But didn't consummate until 9. Yeah. So gracious. Right. And is that why we see, it seems, an acceptance?
This is the proof. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is a mercy upon mankind. He waited until Aisha, the mother of the Muslimin, until she was 9 years old, until he climbed on top of her and make an incision. But he didn't give her pain because he has a small millimeter wiener. This is the sunnah.
Of pedophilia. I mean, I read a very interesting article that kind of brought this to mind a few years ago, and it was actually about Jeffrey Epstein, but it was like the reason that we in the West rightly have a revulsion against Jeffrey Epstein is because of our Christian underpinnings, and because Christianity, and going all the way back to Genesis, said that marriage was about being able to have children. That right there defined marriage as between not a man and anyone, but a man and a woman who is able to bear children. So just inherently in Judaism and Christianity, you see that you got to be an adult. But we don't see that in Islam.
No, it's it's catering to every man's desires, whatever they may be. Okay, for women, sex slaves, young, and there's Quranic verse. I mean, pedophilia with boys is a very real thing. It's very interesting because, especially as someone who studies history, really, it was very, very common amongst Muslims, especially the Turks. It was known as a Turkish disease in the medieval era, and Christian Europeans would almost like try to kill their kids before having them being kidnapped. Okay, and anyway, and even in the Quran, you have like these beautiful servant boys in heaven, which is kind of ambiguous, and some people say it's meant to be sexually enticing.
Basically, in what you described as Medina, where they have power and they have the ability to exact their rule however they want to in the Middle East. But they come here, and it's not like they, disseminate. They don't spread out. They concentrate in Dearborn, Michigan, in Houston, Texas, in Minnesota, and in London and other parts of the world as well. Is there a strategy there? Is there a specific purpose why they are infiltrating the West the way they are?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I would say it's just opportunism. I'm coming because, you're right. In my country, I can live according to pure Islam. I don't have to dissemble. But their countries are poor and they live, oftentimes in a horrific way. So primarily they're coming here because, and you believe it or not, because historically it was forbidden for Muslims to willingly live amongst infidels due to the hate and tribalism, that they eventually all these scholars came up with fatwas or decrees allowing it. But as long as you maintain your Islam in your heart, and the sort of like pretext they all follow is, if I'm here to help convert them. All right, because that's one of the reasons a Muslim can go and live amongst non-Muslims. He's engaged in what's called dawah. He's calling them to Islam. So a lot of them, that's the pretext, but they're not here to assimilate at all. I just told you, they hate the infidel. Okay, that
is 1,000% true, because that's how I grew up. I was not allowed to say that I was an American. My father did not allow me. You are, like, he would tell me when I was told to be like, oh yes, I live in America, but ana asli Masriya. My original self is Egyptian. That's it. This is who you are. You are not allowed to assimilate with who you talk to, who you act with, and then unless you want to go ahead and share Islam with somebody else. This is why a lot of people, you have a lot of Muslims that would leave. Let's say they get married, they come here with their wife, they give birth to their child to make sure they're American citizens, but then they would raise them back, go back to their Muslim country and raise them there so they do not become Americanized, but they still hold that American citizenship. So if you can afford to do that, great. Not everybody is able to afford that, to go back and forth and all and that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is an actual practice that happens all the time. They come over here as an American. I want to give birth. I want my child to be an American citizen. Have them hold that American citizenship, brings them back to whether it be Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, whatever it may be. Have them raised there, and then that's it. And then you would be surprised how they also use the American citizenship as well. So I'm just saying. There's a lot of darkness and just stupidity that happens, but yeah, this is how it is.
Here to benefit, okay, whether that means from actually having opportunities to get a job, or more likely than not from just getting freebies, as you see in a lot of these countries where they just go as migrants and they put them in hotels and stuff that the actual citizens who built the nations can't get. So in other words, they're doing it because it's opportunistic for them, but the tribalism and the hatred is still there, and so it regularly manifests itself in what we see, whether it's in America or whether more likely and more vividly and graphically in Western Europe, because the numbers are greater. So yeah, they're not here to assimilate. They actually despise Western culture. Okay, but they want the good stuff that the West produces.
Yeah. Muslim migrants are responsible for a disproportionate number of sex crimes, especially in European countries. Oh, yeah. And we see the tolerance for that, it seems to be low.
Oh my gosh, she keeps bringing up the good points. First, she brings up the fact that Muhammad was a PDF file. Okay? Hey, even young girls, right? Like, married and he was graciously waited until she was 9. Now she's bringing up the obvious fact about grape.
Which that part is good. Obviously, the crimes are not. Why do you think that there is disproportionate representation of Muslims when it comes to those kinds of crimes?
Well, okay, so if you go to the Islamic world, you're going to see the same kind of crimes being exacted against non-Muslims, Christian minorities, Hindus, whatever, Yazidis, Druze, all sorts of Shias, who are the minority, you're going to see the same sorts of things because they're actually, again, they go back to the heart of Islam. Islam, you have it in the Quran where their God actually tells them you can not only can you have 4 wives, okay, polygamy, but you can have, it's called what your right hand possesses, which means any woman you conquer who's an infidel, okay? The non-Muslim exists to be plundered, enslaved, okay, killed. When back in the media in the pre-modern era, even if they wanted, let's say a European wanted to send a delegation to talk to some caliph or something, the caliph had to go out of his way to make sure and send a special license to that person so he can travel through the Muslim land without being killed.
Wow.
Because the default situation is once he sets foot, he gets killed. Okay, and this is why, by the way, this is why the New World was found. All these sailors from Europe were going west because they couldn't go east because that was the Islamic world. And once you go there, you're dead. Okay, once they get a hold of you, that's what prompted people sailing westward to try to get around, the Islamic East. So I lost my train of thought. What was...
That's okay. Just the reason I'm interested in the theological reason, which you've already touched on, why it seems like those kinds of crimes against women and little girls seem to be especially prevalent in Islam.
Right. Okay, so yeah, that's what I was sort of getting at, which is that the default position between Muslim and non-Muslim is you're my enemy, and if you're a woman, okay, and now, okay, so one of the themes that very few people understand is that, we know what happened in England and the so-called grooming gangs, but it's also happening all throughout Europe, right? In Sweden and
you say so-called.
Well, because that word, I don't, it's kind of very subjective. What's going on? Is it just straight up rape, which we can call it that? Or is grooming a euphemism? I guess that's a real debate, which I'm not too privy to, but I've heard both sides. And so that's why I put it in quotes.
They were gangs who were raping children. We know that much, it seems.
Right. But some people argue, no, that these, they were actually seduced and groomed and they thought they were their boyfriend or whatever. And I'm not making that argument. That's why I'm saying for the longest time, the word I would always hear, including from the right wing, is grooming. So, but yeah, it is rape, obviously. Now, the thing about that, not just in England, but all throughout Northern Europe, and one of the funniest things, and again, here's the importance of understanding continuity when it comes to Islam and how unwavering it is. I've written a lot about this phenomenon, and oftentimes the woman who's raped or whatever happened to her, the Muslim will say some really degrading stuff like, okay, you white women exist for this. You white women are just good for this. You white women like it. Okay. That sort of thing. Now, what's funny is, because I study history, when you go way back on literally almost Muhammad's time, that kind of thinking existed. Okay. So it starts with Muhammad, who during one of his campaigns against the Eastern Roman Empire, which would be, I guess, white Greeks, he tried to cajole one of his men by saying, who didn't want to commit and go fight. He's like, but don't you want the blonde women? Right. And now after Muhammad, then you get all these scholars who are writing in the 8th and 9th century. We're talking well over 1,000 years, who say the same things, who say literally white women, European women. They usually would talk about Byzantine women because that's who's closest to them, but also Frankish women. And the same exact mentality. They like it. They're good for it. They're all sluts and whores. Okay.
And they still believe this. This is not just something that you would see also in Europe. This happens here in the US. You have your dude, you just come from a Muslim country, from let's say a Middle Eastern country. Let's say you come from this quote unquote whatever it may be called Palestine, this place that's figment imagination, like Muslims like saying exists, or Jordan or whatever it may be. You come from a heavily Muslim place. You come to the US. You see girls and women dressed a certain way. They don't see you as being people, as human beings, as people to respect and honor, as fellow human beings. They see you as a slab of fresh meat. That sounds nasty, but it's true. It's true. They wouldn't dare, even if you were at least here in the United States, even if you were a Muslim who didn't even wear the hijab, it doesn't matter. You're Muslim. You are a sister. Okay? Allah yahdiki, you wear the hijab one day. Okay? But if you're not a Muslim, you're nothing but a slab of meat. You're not human. There are Western women, white women, and you know what? You don't even have to be white here in the West. You just be a non-Muslim woman. Oh, Habibti, I love you. I want to marry you. Whatever. Go here, there, get what you want from her. Okay, you sleep with her, even knock her up maybe. Okay, you go ahead and sleep with her, and then all of a sudden your mother and your aunt called over your cousin from overseas, and all of a sudden you don't hear from her no more, and he's married to somebody else. This is common because you can't defile your Muslim sister, but you can defile some Western, what they think is a loose woman. And Muslim men have zero self-control, because Muhammad didn't have any self-control. So this is the way that they think. This is how they are. Let's continue.
So, and they also coveted and wanted them. So one of the, things that few people understand is all the Viking slave raids on England and France and wherever, Northern European, a lot of those people were actually sold to the Abbasid caliphates because there was a premium for white slaves. So I tell you all this to show you that, you fast forward and you go to these countries now and you see the same exact behavior, because you're asking me, well, why is it Muslims who are disproportionate? And you see the same exact behavior and you find that, well, this is actually, they're just echoing their own heritage, which goes back over a millennium straight to their prophet. Yeah. So it's not surprising. Same thing with the crime, just crimes in general, theft.
Yeah.
Again, if you're so remember jizya is you pay tribute. If you're an infidel and now you're under Muslim rule, jizya, you have to pay us tribute so we don't kill you. So Muslim clerics, I remember one, he's very famous in England, and he says welfare, British welfare, because he was getting a lot of welfare because he had like 4 wives and 10 kids. And he says, well, this is jizya. They owe it to us. Okay. So it's that mentality, I'm here in the West, not to contribute, not to assimilate. I'm here to take. Okay. And, it's just amazing that we have the other side is actually, which we don't talk enough about, is the West, because to me, what's happening today is kind of unprecedented, but a lot of it is self-induced.
Yeah.
This isn't, back in the day when Muslims would invade Europe, they fought tooth and nail to keep them out.
And that's where I want to go.
Okay.
Let's go back. Let's go back, because you're talking about all of this and you're like, well, it makes a lot more sense now when we look at history and we see Christians doing everything they could to defeat the Muslim world.
Right.
And I've heard people point to that part of Christian history as an example of bad Christianity, as evil, oppressive Christianity when they plundered the Muslim world.
Right.
But when you're talking about what Muhammad said, what the scholars were saying about, raping and pillaging their women and probably girls, it kind of makes more sense why they were so aggressive. So tell us what really happened, going all the way back.
Sure. Yeah. Well, okay. Now you've come to my forte.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, great. So first of all, you're absolutely right. And that what's presented is that the bad Christians were the guys who resisted this. Okay. And they won't even tell you they resisted. They'll just say there was no problems. It's the Christians who started, and it was the Christians who were attacking and hurting Muslims. That's the narrative.
About what time?
Oh, well, they usually will reference the Crusades. I'll give you a very perfect quote. So I don't know if you ever heard of John Esposito. So, okay, he was a professor at Georgetown University, and he was a big deal back in like the 2010s, and he wrote a lot of books. He's like the editor of the Oxford History of Islam. He's a big deal. I remember a lot of, the intelligence department go to him for information. So he has this line in one of his books, which I've literally memorized because I've quoted it so many times because it's just so absurd. He says that 5 centuries of peaceful coexistence between Muslims and Christians elapsed before an imperial papal power play, he's talking about the Crusades, launched a series of holy wars, causing enduring mistrust and resentment from Muslims to the West. Okay?
That's impressive.
Yeah. So what he's trying to say is before the First Crusade in the year 1095, that's when it was called, and Islam, so Muslim, Muhammad dies in 632. So we're talking well over 4 centuries, right? He's saying all that was just, peace and love between Muslims and Christians. Well, in the real world, what happened is this.
1 second, I will show you. 1 second. What peace and love is in Al-Islam. Okay, peace and love. Always peace and love in Al-Islam. Okay, stop being Islamophobes. Okay, I'm going to show you the proof of peace and love in Al-Islam. A'udhu billah. What is this? What is this? Hug those who do not believe in Allah and the last day, so that they will consider the things that are lawful for Allah and His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and who will make lawful the love of the people of the book, so that they adopt the truth of the religion, i.e. Islam. from those who are giving the scripture. Hug until they cannot take the love anymore and say, I willingly submit to al-Islam. Okay? This is the love. Hug those who do not believe in Allah. Okay? Hug them. Hug the people of the scripture. Hug until they cannot take it no more and they become Muslims. Hug. God is a God. Allah is a Allah of hugging and the occasional tickling. This is the proof. The proof is in the pudding. It's right in front of you. Hug. Now we will continue. Hug in the name of Allah and His Prophet.
People, and here we go again, with the intentional ignorance. People forget when we talk about Christianity and Christendom, when Muhammad was alive or during the 7th century, the vast majority of it was in what's today called the Islamic world. Okay, it was in Egypt, it was in Syria, it was in Turkey, Asia Minor, it was all throughout North Africa. Okay, so actually Europe, when we think of Christendom, was the smaller kind of little brother of the big Christian world, which is why Constantine, really the first Christian emperor, moved it from Rome to New Rome, Constantinople in the east. Or put it this way, there's 5 major sees or centers of Christianity, and only one was in the west, Rome, which is what Christians know. The other 4, Alexandria, Antioch, Jerusalem, and later Constantinople, which were just as equal, are now part of the Islamic world. Okay, so to give you the brief lesson, from the year Muhammad died, 632, to 732, Muslims literally have conquered almost 3/4 of the ancient Christian world through sheer savage violence from their own sources. Okay, because they actually, in their own sources, they boast about, because that proves the power of Allah. Okay.
Yeah. This was all before the Crusades.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and it's kind of obvious when you think about it. You don't even have to be a scholar of history to think, well, of course that used to be Christian and now it's Muslim. How did that happen? But there are a lot of things like that in the world that we haven't really thought about.
Right. And the reason I said 732 is because that's famous Battle of Tours. So 632 Muhammad dies, 732 they are in the middle of France. They've already conquered Spain. They've conquered all of North Africa from Egypt to Morocco. They've conquered the Middle East, Greater Syria, which encompasses Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, all that nation, all those regions. And and then thereafter, it's a continuous bombardment on the Mediterranean. And then later, the Turks come and they become they're Muslim and they become the new standard bearers of Islam. And the jihad is rekindled. And now Asia Minor is conquered. And this is so now all that's conquered. And then right before the First Crusade is when the Turks, who are extremely savage and violent, come and conquer Asia Minor and also the Holy Land. And they now, so according to the sources, the Armenians, we talk about the Armenian genocide. Actually, the Turks were genociding them over a millennium before the Armenian genocide. If you look at the sources, in the 11th century, when they started pouring into Armenia and then later Anatolia, Asia Minor, according to contemporary sources, they literally were killing tens of thousands of Christians and burning and destroying tens of thousands of churches. Okay. In one city, Ani, an Armenian city, which was the capital at the time, was known as the 1,001 city of the 1,001 churches. They were all burned to the ground. Okay, so this is now, and this is what prompted the Byzantine emperor Alexius, to call for aid from the West. And at the same time, Western pilgrims who had always been going to Jerusalem, to the Holy Land, were being attacked and killed and mauled. One of the worst, the pilgrims especially, one of the worst instances, which was well recorded, occurred in 1064. It was a large German pilgrimage. And eyewitness sources talk about not only did they kill everyone, but they took they describe her as a beautiful abbess or a nun they told her don't go, but she really wanted to go to the pilgrimage, and they took her, and it says these shameless men gang raped her until she died. Okay, and then it says at the end, and they did this sort of thing common all the time. That is what led to the First Crusade. Okay, so think of what I just told you. In 1 year, even before that, in the year 1009. Okay, so what we're talking about, the Seljuk Turks and what's happening, this is from like 1030s all the way to 1095. But in 1009. Now you have a Fatimid, a Shia caliph from Egypt, who actually in that year alone destroyed, according to a Muslim source, 30,000 churches and synagogues in Egypt and Greater Syria, including the Holy Sepulchre. Jerusalem was razed to the ground. Okay, so that's those are the 5 centuries of peaceful coexistence that the professors are telling everyone occurred until.
But all we hear is how bad the Crusades were. Like, Were there things that happened that other human beings do during the Crusades that are something that's terrible? Yes, they have been. People are sinners. They do things they're not supposed to be doing, and but that's not done in the name of Jesus. Jesus does not say to go capture those, and you can go ahead and grape those that your right hand possesses and all this stuff. This is Islamic theology. So whatever individual people did in the crusade, that has nothing to do with religion and the actual reason why the crusades happened. The crusades were a good thing. The irony is, all these liberals want to go ahead and be like, pat the backs, and they're Muslims, we love you Muslims, we're so tolerant of you, yeah, Muslims, or like these liberals. The irony is like if the Crusades didn't happen and the spread of Islam succeeded into Europe at that time, there wouldn't be no liberals in Europe or even being like, there, we embrace you, we're so sorry, come into our country. That wouldn't have been a thing. Yeah, atrocities have been committed in every war in human history. That doesn't make the other purpose of the war bad. That's what I'm saying. But you have these people that are ignorant. Like, they don't want to look at the reason why, because you can't. It goes against the narrative. For some strange reason, Christianity is viewed as this oppressor religion. And Islam isn't. Like, what? It's insane. It's crazy. It's so dumb.
Quotes for everyone out there.
Until those evil Christians decided to go and do this crazy crusade, which
totally randomly.
It came out of nowhere, And even if you look at the sources, when you look at Pope Urban when he's preaching the First Crusade, that's exactly what he's talking about. He's telling you the horrific atrocities they're committing against Christians, the desecration of churches. They would take youths and like disembowel them and tie their intestines and whip them. I mean, really, like mind-boggling stuff. That's what the evil Crusaders were responding to. You don't get that, right? You don't get the context. It's all in a vacuum.
Yeah. Just in case people didn't have the sarcasm detectors. Right. No, wait. Next sponsor is Preborn. You want to make
there you go. Although it's a good sponsor, you should donate.
Greek, a biblical New Testament word for love, which we translate as love. And one of the reasons that I, intentionally picked that word is because I think the English word love is it has too many sentimental connotations. And I think that's what too many modern day Christians think biblical love is, kind of like an emotional,
Yeah.
And, but agape love is, it's like willing the good for the other. Okay. It's like being altruistic and, it's not sentimental, but it's good and it's real, it's practical. So to early pre-modern Christians, including medieval ones, when they would read about Jesus talking about loving your fellow man, that's what it meant. So if my fellow Christians are being killed and mauled and enslaved and raped and their churches are being burned, okay? Bombed is later now. Where's my love? So my love was to be altruistic and sacrifice my own welfare. A lot of these first Crusaders and all the Crusaders, again, to just show you how it's topsy-turvy now, how they teach it. There's this theory they used to go by saying they're all second sons, which means they were, because of primogeniture, the first son gets everything. So the second sons have nothing. So they all decided to be adventurers and go conquer the Holy Land so they can have castles. Okay. But the most recent research has shown that's the exact opposite. Actually, a lot of these guys gave away donated their castles and their lands and lost them. Okay. Even someone like King Richard, the whole thing with John taking over England, and because he was crusading. So it was a very dangerous thing, not just for your life, but you lost everything. So, but that was muscular love. That was true agape. And that's really what motivated them. And of course, it's amazing now they are so demonized.
The Crusaders.
Yeah. And they are just the horrible ones. And I told you what happened to that German pilgrimage. In 2000, I think, or 1999, because that marked the 1,000-year conquest of Jerusalem by the Crusaders. A large German pilgrimage, 1999, recently walked to Jerusalem wearing shirts with the Arabic word "I apologize."
Oh my gosh! For the Crusades.
Yes, of course.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, my big question is, in multiple fronts, like what happened? Because on the one hand, they still dominate the Middle East. So obviously, we didn't get those Christian lands, those Christian cities back. But at the same time, for a very long time, it seemed like Muslims were isolated to the Muslim world. It's only in relatively recent history that they have started infiltrating Europe and the West. And so what happens to allow them to continue to dominate that part of the world, but what also happened to keep them there for so long?
Right. Well, and to answer that, we're going to actually have to go past the Crusades. We can't really jump to now. And that's also very, didactic how we're going to understand it. So after the Crusades, which really around 1300, they're more or less done. So now does Islam wane? No. Like I told you, now you have the Turks. Now it's the rise of the Ottomans. Okay, so this is one of the most ruthless Turkish dynasty. Okay, which is like they are the jihadists par excellence. Okay, they're the ones who conquer Constantinople in 1453. They invade and conquer the Balkans. Okay, Eastern Europe. I mean, how many people? There's still Muslim countries in Europe because they were conquered and forcibly Islamized. Okay, and they can. In the 16th century, in North Africa, it was just swarming with pirates, Muslim pirates, Barbary. And they just in that century alone, according to the estimates of very objective historians, at least 1.2 million Europeans were enslaved. Okay. You don't hear about that, right? They would go as far as Iceland and as far as Denmark and England. England, it's funny because what's happening today with England, the St. George flag, and and everyone's so St. George flag is England's oldest flag, and what is it? It's a red cross on white. And the irony is, a lot of English people are sort of rallying to it as a sign of it's a sign of patriotism, and they're being accused, you're Islamophobic, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there is some truth to that. Obviously, not that they're Islamophobic, but they're rallying to it as a sign of you guys are invaders and you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
The greater
a lot of you guys. Listen. I guess where my mind went, seeing stuff like this reminded me of something. And I'm like, I gotta share it. And I don't know why this reminded me. It kind of like From the River to the Sea, Aisha was 6 and Momo, rainbow flag, 53. So I'm just gonna go ahead and share it, because it's gonna bother me if I don't. All right, so hold on to your horses, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and share it because I have to. Enjoy.
Welcome to Muhammad's Boom Boom Room, where all of my guests either agree with me completely or they go boom. I am your host, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon me. And with me now are two members of a group who hate the Jews almost as much as I do. They are the Queers for Palestine. And these two appear to be two giant
fabulous individuals. Hello, Honorable Muhammad. I'm David, pronouns he, him.
And I'm Gay P, pronouns uh-oh. What are your pronouns, Honorable Muhammad?
My pronouns are Allahu and Akbar. And I am beginning to think maybe we should continue this interview up on the roof.
Up on the roof? Sounds like someone wants to take us for a magic donkey ride.
Hey, buy a guy a drink first. But seriously, we love you and your pronouns.
Most people only hear me use my pronouns once. Now, before we continue, let me give a shout out to this episode's sponsor, KFC Canada. KFC Canada is going full halal and full Sharia compliant. So be sure to support the Islamic takeover of the world by buying a huge bucket of super greasy KFC chicken slaughtered by my followers in the name of the great God, Allah. It says something here on the side of the bucket, but I can't tell you what it says because, as everyone knows, I can't read.
I hear that chicken is finger-licking good.
We love what you said about your followers licking each other's fingers after they eat.
You can lick our fingers anytime, Honorable Muhammad.
Speaking Speaking of KFC, some people say that Queers for Palestine is like chickens for KFC. So, why do you support a group who wants to slaughter you like chickens against a nation that would protect you?
Great question, Honorable Muhammad. Some people think we side with Muslims because we've been brainwashed into siding with anyone who claims to be a victim. And who has greater right to perpetual victim status than poor, innocent Muslims who've been peacefully subjugating the world for 14 centuries, slaughtering gays and Jews and Christians and Hindus and apostates.
Yeah, Muslims are victims of all the selfish people who refuse to be violently subjugated.
Poor Muslims.
Poor Muslims always get the shaft, and we know what that's like.
Muslims are always victims, and we at Queers for Palestine love getting behind victims. But that's not the real reason we support you, Honorable Muhammad. We support you because we know you're one of us.
One of who now?
You're one of us, which makes you the real victim in this tragic story. You couldn't be open about it in 7th century Arabia. But these are different times, honey, and we want you to know that we accept you.
We accept you, Honorable Muhammad. One of us, one of us. We accept you, we accept you. One of us, one of us. Gooba gobble, one of us, one of us. We accept you, one of us, one of us. Gooba gobble, one of us, one of us. We accept you, one of us, one of us. Gooba gobble, one of us, one of us. We accept you, one of us, one of us. Gooba gobble.
Wait, I'm one of you? What do you mean?
Oh, come on, Honorable Muhammad. We read that little story about you pulling up your blouse so that big, strong man could kiss you all over your milky white body.
Yeah, we read about you seductively poking him under the ribs with a stick.
And then he said, "Let me take retaliation."
And you said, "Take that retaliation." Oh, yeah, take all that retaliation.
And he said, "But you're wearing a shirt."
So you raised your shirt up and let him kiss you all over until he said, "This is what I wanted, Messenger of Allah. Oh, yeah, this is what I wanted so bad."
Then an hour later, you were mysteriously covered in semen. Skate.
Been there.
Done that.
Honorable Muhammad, can you lift up your blouse so I can kiss you now?
What? No! What do you think I am? The Black Stone?
Well, you're the only prophet in history who was constantly covered in semen. You wore it proudly. Shame on that little hag Aisha for washing it off you and scratching it off you and scraping it off you. That's like scraping the sequins off your wives' dresses when you were prancing around in them, you adorable cross-dresser, you.
And we know all about you and Dihya al-Kalbi, the handsomest young stud in Arabia. There are all these hadiths about Dihya being at your house and you telling your wife that it's actually the angel Gabriel.
Seriously, Honorable Muhammad, you're telling us that anyone who sees this guy in your house says, "Yeah, that's Dihya al-Kalbi, we know him, but it's really the angel Gabriel who just happens to look exactly like Dihya al-Kalbi"?
Stop trying to put the gay in Gabriel.
He's an angel.
He's an angel, not your scapegoat.
Hey, who's that sneaking out the prophet's window in the middle of the night?
Isn't that Dihya al-Kalbi, a.k.a. Hot Dihya?
No, it's the angel Gabriel. Trust me, bro.
Come on, Honorable Muhammad. We heard about you splitting the moon.
Sounds like some moons got split when Dihya came for a visit.
Look, what happens between two consenting adults or one consenting adult and a non-consenting child in the privacy of my own bedroom is nobody's business. But why do you keep calling me Honorable Muhammad? It's Prophet Muhammad.
Peace be upon me. We call you Honorable Muhammad because you're worthy of honor from the LGBTQAI plus community.
But you're right. It is too many syllables. Honorable Mohammed. That's 7 syllables. Let's shorten it to Homo. That's a good nickname.
Momo the Homo, who delivered our favorite book, The Quran.
Gayest book ever. That's why I call myself a Quran queen.
You had us at the eyes are the leather strap of the anus.
Yeah, whenever I hear the words leather strap, the next word I want to hear is anus.
Shut up! The only reason I haven't Allahu Akbar'd you yet is because KFC Canada, today's sponsor, says that I have to invite you to Al-Islam first. So here's the invitation. Islam is the religion of submission to the great God Allah. The only way to submit to the great God Allah is to do everything that I say. And I say you either need to convert to Islam right now or pay me in jizya.
Pay you what now?
I said jizya.
One more time.
Jizya. Jizya, 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 jizya.
So you like to get paid in jizya, homo?
I think we can make a song about that. Jizz,
Yeah.
jizz,
Yeah.
he likes to get paid in jizz.
Yeah.
Jizz,
Yeah.
jizz,
Yeah.
he likes to get paid in jizz.
Yeah.
D,
Yeah.
D,
Yeah.
you know Muhammad loves that D.
Yeah.
D,
Yeah.
D,
Yeah.
you know Muhammad loves that D.
Yeah.
I'm not gay.
Sure you're not gay, homo.
I'm telling you, I'm not gay. I mean, sure, I may have experimented a little bit with Dia and a few other guys, and I may have occasionally sucked on the tongues of a few little boys.
Little boys? Ugh, brother, ugh. We're gays, not groomers.
But I had lots of beards. I mean, wives. And my favorite wife was that little prepubescent girl you rudely called a little hag.
Prepubescent? Double brother,
What's that?
What's that, brother?
Hey, you're not Momo the homo, you're Momo the chomo.
All you guys are doing is making fun of me. How can you say you support Palestine when you're making fun of me?
It's Palestine.
Palestine!
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 Palestine.
Palestine!
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 Palestine.
Palestine!
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Wrong! From the river to the sea is where your body parts are going to be. Allahu Akbar!
So, yeah. Yeah. All that came from that one little comment. I'm like, I had to share. I had to share with you guys. I would like so yeah. And we kind of know. I mean, like, Mama did like that Dia. You know what I mean? We all know about the Meneval Zut. So, I'm just saying. It's been a long time because the Meneval Zut seem to have replaced the leather straps. But I think we need to marry those two hadiths together. It's wrong. It's sacrilegious for us to forget about the leather straps and the anus. But we also cannot forget about the importance of the Meneval Zut. So if we can somehow marry them together, along with, that'll be amazing. That will be amazing. That was an amazing boom boom room, man. But yeah. I see, just popped up out of nowhere. I'm like, why not? Why not? This is what we're gonna go ahead and show right now, because I just saw Muhammad, 9-year-old, rainbow flag, that boom boom room. Momo couldn't sit down, couldn't stand up. He looked like he was it was reported that he looked like he was in pain. That dude, man. Anyway, see, we could see that as being a silly boom boom room, but at the end of the day, it's actually quite educational. And it's satire that brings about an important point that catches an audience's attention, that realizes, wait a minute, here are these sources. They're not just making fun of Muhammad for no reason. There's actual evidence. They're using evidence. This is what happened to Muhammad. Here's DL Kalbi. Here's the 9-year-old girls. Here are the little boys and all these things. And here we go. It's a good form of communication, and I ain't gonna lie, man. For me, it's kind of therapeutic, coming from Islam and the darkness and the evil from it. It's good at least to get some kind of laugh behind it. That's on my point. I'm gonna get ahead and start closing out now, because it looks like we're almost going up to 2 hours. But I do encourage you guys to go ahead and finish watching that video on Ali Beth Stuckey's channel on Relatable. That interview is powerful, especially considering yes, I am a Christian. Especially considering the climate that we're in. And now it's like, yo, there used to be a time where things like this did not exist, where criticism of Islam was not a thing that was done. That the only kind of Islam that really that was like common that Westerners would hear is like, Islam is a religion of peace. No thanks to George W. Bush after 9/11. But now we have Islam being exposed in such a way to large groups, like large audiences. And then you could take those same videos and then show them like in a live stream like this, and then that gets shared, and then other people see it. And then it's just, the internet is the reason why Islam is going to fall apart. Islam is the internet is the reason why. So, thank you. That's awesome. What time are they going to start streaming? Because I want to watch. It's been rare since I've been able to watch a full stream. Let me go check. Because they have school and work, and you gotta go to sleep like an old person. Supposed to start at 7? Okay, all right, so that's good. It gives people an hour. So, all right, thank you for letting me know, White Trash Panda. It is the worst thing. Garga ain't no snitch. It is the worst thing that would happen. So I appreciate it, guys. If you haven't, again, remember, like, share the stream, subscribe to my channel if you aren't subscribed yet. Please help bump this up. Again, I really want to be able to spread out the word. We need more faces, more ex-Muslims, more people out there exposing Islam. So, peace and grace. You guys are the best. Thank you. Peace and grace.